Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. This video is about 3 categories of martial art paths, and 2 of them, obviously, I will show are invalid, and 1 is the Royal African Falcon Martial Art Order. The purpose of this video isn't to insult people. It is to teach people where they went wrong. I'm going to give you a bunch of points about what martial arts is about to prove why I'm right. Obviously, the fact that I'm sabotaged for righteousness' sake puts me far, far above other people. And it gives me the martial authority to speak on this with that extra bit of authority, not just as the top martial artist ever possible, but someone who's sabotaged more than Martin Luther King was for a cause that is greater than Martin Luther King's cause. Martin Luther King said, "My eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord, and in my life I've lived the glory of the coming of the Lord as God's anointed." So immediately you already know, because of context. If I was Pee Wee Herman saying this, you wouldn't believe me. If it was George Bush or Prince Harry saying this, you wouldn't believe me. If it was a black guy from the ghetto who seemed typical, you wouldn't believe me. But I'm the son of 2 doctors, 1 a brain surgeon, who's a humanitarian, and I'm the top martial artist ever possible. I have no reason to lie. My default position puts me above everybody that ever lived, who's ever known to have lived for sure, immediately. I am the namesake and the son of the most righteous brain surgeon that ever lived, and I'm the top martial artist ever possible. This is not brain surgery. God knew that you would be out of your mind if you did not believe me. Just like in John 10, if you don't believe that I'm the Messiah because you don't understand the Bible better than a first grader who really goes to church and thinks carefully, then at least believe my works and my identity, so that you may know that God is in me and that I'm in God. So I'm God's messenger, no matter how you slice it. That was the formula Jesus used to prove his point in John 10, that he wasn't lying or delusional or possessed by a demon, that he was actually who he said he was. Okay, so when we look at the first category, we think of, the gladiators. Okay, the MMA fighters. There used to be a show called American Gladiator. There was a movie series or something called Blood Sport with Van Damme. Blood Sport. Immediately, being a gladiator, beating people up for people's entertainment, to say you beat someone up, whether you're a boxer or an MMA fighter, is not smart. It's not honorable. Martial arts is about mind, body, soul, and spirit. So if you're messing up your brain and your mind, and the other things as well, so that you can get paid and impress people and feed your ego, is it the truest martial art path? Is it the highest martial art path? No. These people aren't being persecuted for righteousness' sake. They're simply beating each other up so that a bunch of groupies can, scream their name and they can feel important. While the actual top martial arts ever possible is not even in the spotlight. We can't even for a moment entertain the despicable falsehood that their path is equal or greater. Outrageous. Inconceivable. Preposterous. Absurd. As they say. Okay. Excuse my English. Now, let's consider the fairy posers, right? The pretty boys. People like Van Damme himself to some degree. People in the Olympics. Guys who, who like to pretend that they have tons of class in their martial arts schools. Do they have class? If you conform to a corrupt system and you pretend that what you're doing is moral when you are not moral, you are a misleader, a false idol. Because David versus Goliath was a martial art competition. Goliath was a skilled hand-to-hand combat. He followed the deity Dagon as the story goes. So there's his argument of mind, body, soul, and spirit. And David said, you, with your mind, body, soul, and spirit, have defied the God of Israel. So me, with my mind, body, soul, and spirit, and my God is greater than yours, I'm going to strike you down. And, here's what he said. He's going to strike him down and cut off his head. And the whole world will know that there's a God in Israel, that his martial arts are greater because his God is greater. And, of course, he struck him down with a sling. And when you think about it, there's different things you can get for him. One, Goliath was like armored like a tank. He had a big shield. Okay? He had time to see the stone coming and to block it. This isn't a bullet. This isn't catching a bullet with your teeth, mind you. Okay? Could have blocked or dodged. David could have missed and been in a world of trouble. Not that I agree that that's the master single combat, but that must be considered as at least some of the martial art principles were still intact. And then Christ said he came to bring a sword, not a sling. Pretty straightforward. You see, the sword of Scripture is more than just, reading a book. It is the actions of God. So the word is more embodied in martial arts than it is in reading the Bible. Okay? Because if you become one with the Spirit and convey it intensely, are you greater than some shallow fairy-like person clicking their heels in church, reading Scripture with a smile on their face, like Flanders, like a pink cartoon character? Yes. Focus, moral intensity. The Lord is a warrior. He's not a fairy. The one who's in his warrior spirit and in conveying it with a martial spirit is closer to God than the one who's reading it in church, especially if they're not following the warrior order. Then they are a rebellious fairy that doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. They don't know it. They don't live it. They didn't bear fruit. They're not even a branch in the true vine in the first place. But one way or another, they're cut down and thrown into the fire. Now I'm running out of time here, so let's go over the points I have written down here. Okay. Number one, being deep in reality. Profound. Deep. Not shallow. Not a rich fool, but being profound. Deep. In reality. Not theater arts. Not propaganda. Universal depth. Not profane, right? Pro-fake, not profane, but profound. That's where you find it, in the depth of the argument. Not the fairy heel clicking, not singing Christmas carols. Point number two, proof, pro-of. There's all kinds of wordplay there that's rather disturbing. One of them is rape foe. Okay? Faux pry. So you're the foe, you're the pro of actually serving God, and you're the foe of the organized rape by deception people who have a false theater order, right? Their theater order instead of a real order. And they date based on social status and money and what people have in common instead of the content of the character. Point number three, heart. He-art and character. Point number four, timing. A sense of urgency. Your gene C. Urgency, right? It's a play on words. Point number five, responsibility. Responsibility. Willpower. It's part of how you know I'm the top martial artist. Other ones aren't responding. If you respond in propaganda as a liberal or conservative or any other propaganda that's compatible with the shallow state propaganda or any other propaganda, then are you responding as a man or are you behaving like some kind of pink sheep? Responsibility, urgency, emergency, emerge and see. 6, brain power, not a sniveling yes man. 7, the environment is designed naturally to be appreciated by the intensely mature. So being intensely mature, if I go into nature, I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Am I appreciating it? No. Intensely mature. It goes beyond the Buddhists, beyond people who think like that, the pacifists, but intense. Truly living in reality, the Lion of Judah, not the sheep of Judah. Not the plant of Judah, the lion, intensely mature. 8, bright and brilliant. Intensity of understanding, right? The sun is bright. How bright? How brilliant? Seeing is believing. 9, prioritization and the highest cause. Universal pinpoint and moral precision. 10, focus, moral intensity. 11, wisdom. Again, prioritizing. Having focus, moral intensity. Universal pinpoint and moral precision. Having the wisdom to know what it is and what I mean by that. Trying with all one's heart, scrambling with all one's heart to be precisely moral is what I mean by universal pinpointing moral precision, as a philosophy. Thank you.